Boom, hello, and welcome to the Protect Your Nation podcast, a podcast that is dedicated to making the world a better place, making the world a safer place by making good people dangerous. In this podcast, we're going to study and understand what it takes to protect your family, to protect your loved ones, because we all know that you have a few basic needs, food, water, and shelter, but you also have the need to protect those things. In a world and society where evil runs rampant and is sometimes left unchecked, learning how to protect yourselves and your loved ones is becoming more and more important. And so we strive to raise the level of accountability to those who would do evil on this planet by making sure that the sheep, that the flock, is more well-versed in protecting themselves and their loved ones. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back and enjoy the show. Out.
Hey, no, that's you.
Boom, what's going down, y'all? What's up? This episode is going to be amazing. It's been a long time coming. Me and BJ been kicking this back and forth for a minute, but you know, he's a juggernaut with what he does. And y'all know I work 18 jobs at the same time like a Jamaican, but I'm Bahamian. So we finally got this thing figured out, and I can't wait to share this with you. We're going to get into some real world action that he's been in, and hopefully we're digging into some technical stuff. My tongue's orange because I had some turmeric right before the call. Don't get crazy. I be doing hippie stuff in here, man. Y'all know me, I do hippie stuff. So hey, brother, it's an honor to have you, man. How you doing?
Oh, brother, it's an honor to be here, man. It's I'm a little tuned up. So your episode is the first time anybody's going to hear this. And I don't remember if I told you or not, but my house got raided by some thugs like 6 days ago.
Days?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I just moved in. I moved in the house like, I don't know, like 9 or 10 months ago or something like that. But my other house has been on the market for a minute, and I had to build, a secure location for all my stuff that I've, spent my whole life going crazy over. And I just got this room dialed. My buddy Timmy built it, and I still have a lot of work to do in here, but I had like 3 days where I started like just hanging shit and stuff. I still got so much shit. Like I got all my like ballistic test blocks that I'm going to hang everywhere. I've got examples of the beginning and the end of my journey as it relates to 9mm terminal ballistics. And I got a bunch of shit in here.
He's a freak. You guys are going to find out when it comes to his ballistics. I mean, this is my guy. Like, this is the guy I'm calling when I need new stuff. House got broken into. Your like current house, like with all the stuff in it, or like the other house, or how'd this go down, man?
This house, and I had all kinds of, like security cameras and alarm systems and all that shit that were going in this week. And it didn't even get broken into. The guy crawled through the fucking doggy door. Yeah.
I seen that once in a video I got sent. So that's a thing, because I got some big dogs and I was thinking about getting a doggy door, but you're changing my mind right now.
Yeah. I don't know how to, I'm still trying to figure out how to, the shit that I just like, I just spent $20,000 on a bunch of shit, cameras, and cameras, alarm system, and all this. I was gonna put in like some run of the mill stuff or whatever, but then this happened, and I called my guy. That's he's a dev group guy. He's like a Delta Force guy, and he works. He's works like you. He does executive protection, and he does special assignments and all this other shit. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, this happened. Who's the fucking baddest motherfucker you got? So I got that guy to do everything. The only thing I couldn't get, was booby traps, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. No, I dig it. Did they get anything? I mean, did they get anything you can't replace?
Louis Vuitton bags. And they got, you know, I have my home defense rifle, right? That's hidden. They flipped over, you know, the beds and we're rummaging through everything. They got that, and they got a Glock 34, which I'm really pissed about. Just having that shit on the street, you know,
Bad feeling, man.
It eats me alive. What they didn't know is that I'm like really good friends with the sheriff.
Yep.
So he's pouring all the sauce on this investigation, and they're working, you know, both teams of investigators are working on it 7 days a week. And it's all of the resources of Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, which already is like a fantastic agency.
Yep.
You know,
They're legit. It's just a matter of time then. Good, man. Were you guys, so you guys fortunately weren't home?
unfortunately. Unfortunately, that's the thing that I'm, you know, most pissed about.
I completely understand. God help them, right? It's like that house when you break in and the alarm goes off and it's that song, "Let the bodies hit the floor."
Yeah, exactly.
And then everything locks. And
I love that. Yeah, exactly.
Dude. So okay. Well, dang, man. I'm sorry to hear that. I did work a couple cases where, actually a case in particular where clients were out and they posted that they were out, and I believe that was the trigger for the attack. I think criminals are checking hashtags, you know, Hamptons, or, you know, checking hashtags of vacation locations, and then just boom, striking while people are up in these vacation locations.
Yeah, I went silent for 10 days, which is the longest I've gone silent since I got an Instagram, when, you know, when everybody did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was out putting myself in harm's way in my race truck in front of $500,000 cameras. Anybody that's seeing this that's, you know, knows who I am, they're going to know exactly what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had to be somebody that is in the environment, that knows somebody that knew that I was gone, because I didn't post about it or anything. You know, it's really crazy, crazy.
It's nuts, man. A lot of times we do these investigations, we find out it's some kind of inside job. Unfortunately, you know. Okay, well, real quick, just so people get a little quick familiarity with you and who you are and your background and what you do, man. I mean, right now they're looking at that room and they're like, "This is a bad dude." But key them into what you know. I mean, you are a bad dude, but let them know, man, what you're up to in the world.
I'm undefeated in the art of gunfighting, and other than that, there's really nothing special. No, I'm just kidding. No.
One way to put it.
One way to put it.
Get into that in a second.
I'm a truck driver. That's like when people like ask what I do for a profession, that's what I tell them. But most times somebody else is around, because I don't like fucking telling people that, you know,
this is always the awkward part. I gotta like draw it out of you guys.
No, it's all right. You know, I'm sure there's people that don't want to know, but I am a multi-time world champion race car driver, and I race in the desert. I do long distance endurance racing. I'm the only person in history to win the Baja 1000 twice in a trophy truck. I've got 7 series points championships, and I've won a bunch of races. I drive a truck that makes trucks. To build it and develop it's about $1 million, which sounds expensive, but not nearly as expensive as an F1 car, which I don't fit in. But you know, it's something that I've been, you know, doing for 2 decades. I love it very much.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I am a student of weaponscraft for a very long time, and I do a lot of defensive tactics training and for a lot of years. And my girlfriend is Tori. She's got 56 championships in shooting sports. She's the youngest person in history to be a shooting sports champion. And so we obviously get along very well. Some of the shit is hers. So yeah, I have a background in professional race car driving, and I have extensive education as it relates to lethal force and a little bit of boxing, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and a little bit of Tai Chi.
Dude, you're a straight up warrior, man. I always, I guess maybe because I've been in the Marine Corps and, I've gone to war a few times, but like I recognize warrior instantly. And then I always have to sit through, like, sometimes it's a civilian. So then they're like, yeah, but I didn't do the stuff you did. I'm like, dude, like some of the most dangerous dudes I know are civilians. Like I'm sitting in the car with John Burke. We call him Berkey. He's like one of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu's first black belts in the US, like white guy black belts, right?
Oh, wow.
Okay. I mean, he's been in the game teaching agencies and everyone for decades, right? Client lists, he's taught everybody. And I'm just sitting here, and he's like, he's the best are always respectful, right? So
yeah,
it doesn't hold the candle to what you did. I'm looking at this guy, he's like, and I'm like, he's so dangerous. You know what I mean? So dangerous. And I'm just sitting here like, bro, like, come on, it's the engine, man. We have a certain engine in us, and it's like warriors recognize warriors instantly. It doesn't matter what your background is. That's a dangerous man, and he's got the engine. He's got the eye, and it's like,
yeah, I appreciate that, man. That's super flattering. So I have a question for you. So I got like this. I got like, when I was younger, like really young, like in high school and junior high, I'd get picked on, and I was a certifiable fucking pussy. I mean, Can I say that? Can I say that on your podcast?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, man. Weapons free.
So I love that, weapons free. So I got jumped by like 14 guys when I was 17 years old, and over some shit that they thought I did, but I didn't do. Yeah. And then I was like, fuck this shit, dude. I'm going to go. Everybody in school that was like football player, wrestler, like all the fucking hardcore motherfuckers.
Hard guys, yeah.
Yeah, well, they were getting in fights all the time, like every fucking weekend. I'm like, these guys. Yeah, I was like, these guys fucking love me. I'm gonna go hang out with them and see if I can learn how to not get fucking beat up.
Right.
That journey didn't really stop. So by the time I was like 20 years old, all my buddies were fucking really tough. So I was always in shit. I was always getting in bar fights or fights at parties. And so that hardened me up, quite a bit. Then I got into jiu-jitsu in 2003. I just did 15 years of jiu-jitsu. I still do jiu-jitsu. And Dana White was my boxing instructor, Yeah. So he's been a really good friend of mine for a very, very long time. So
that's so cool, man.
Kind of had like a rebound from like being terrified. So my question for you is, when you were younger, did you have like a moment where you were like, fuck this shit, I want to be a really hard target?
Yeah. I when I was growing up, I'm from the Bahamas. So when I would go to the Bahamas, all the Bahamian kids would be like, hey, fat boy, yo, let's beat up the American. And then they'd all come over. But my dad was like ultra warrior code. Like my dad's this ultra hard dude, got shot at point blank range with a shotgun and survived, got burnt one time over 80% of his body and survived. And so he was a disciplinary, like if people think I'm intense, I am like the diet version watered. My dad is like Trump and Tony Montana mixed in one person from the Bahamas. I still might not be able to beat my dad up. I still might have to shoot him if it went down. So he's like one of so he was, before I could watch TV, he'd get one of those pillows with BBs in it, and he'd be like, you got to hit this while you watch TV because your mom's making you soft. So my dad was this warrior, black belt in a bunch of things, started the first like SWAT team in the Bahamas, had the largest security company in the Bahamas. And he was not going to let me be soft. So he was constantly testing me like Mr. Miyagi style, like, son, go down the street, give me some hot dogs. And I'm like, give me a hot dog. Well, there's dog gangs like in the Bahamas, bro. So like,
yeah.
Evan, I'll die. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
the feral dogs will fuck you up.
Yeah, man. And I'm just like, I can't. And he's like, what did you just say to me? You know, like, so yeah, I even to this day, before I call my dad, I'm like, I like sit there and look at the phone for like a few minutes and I'm like, all right, I gotta do this. Cause our love language is like hard, you know, like
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. So he, you know, he'll lock me on. My friends see me around my dad and they're like, I never seen you around anyone like that ever. So I had that in me. And then when I go visit him in the Bahamas, I'd have to fight all the Bahamian kids. And then when I come back to the US, the kids were a lot softer and cool. But like in some instances, I was the only black guy because I was in Washington and it's all Samoans and stuff. And they're like monsters. They're literally like monster. They're from like, you know what I mean? Like they ate people or something when they're like superhuman. So like, then I was the only one there. And like, fortunately I gained respect by getting in fights there and they call me little brother. So I kind of grew up always being like the only and learning how to fight on my own by myself. And then I had 5 sisters. So I go home, I got to fight all them by myself, you know, cause I'm the only dude, you know? So that kind of, I never really lost a fight really bad or anything, but I know that I had a genetic like warrior thing in me. I've always known I was a warrior and I've always had that in me. And then I kept getting tested all the time until now, you know, and at a very young age, that little hurdle people have to get over when it goes from like, okay, it's time to be tested, anxiety, and then they either back off, chicken out, or go. All right, let's do the thing. We'll find out if everything I've been doing is actually worth anything today. And then
it's funny you talk about your dad. Like you gave me the download on your dad. My dad was the exact opposite, and that's why I was such a soft kid. And then you know the rebound of getting picked on and getting beat up and shit like that. I was like, fuck this shit. I want to know. I want to develop that compartmentalization of fear, and I want to have some type of skill set and you know be okay with getting dumped, you know, in the face and fucking just have that drive. So you know, that's funny because my dad was the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think they say, I've heard it said that our fathers do something to develop our identities, you know. And I think parents do something to where we look at them and we're like, if you're unconscious, you just drift into kind of who your parents are. But then there's the other ones that go the opposite way. Because I looked at a number of things and was like, I ain't doing that. I ain't gonna be like that. Now, me and my dad, though, he didn't raise me necessarily. I just went and visited him every summer and got beat up a lot and got harder every summer. But when I talk with my dad, we're very, very, very similar. When he starts preaching, he's basically preaching to me what I preach on social media all the time, which is the craziest thing. So there's some genetic thing there too. But with civilians, you know, one of the reasons I do the tactical protection reviews and I show them real life combat and then I try to walk them through it is because I find sometimes just humans in general, they don't see the importance or value, you know, protection unless they have some type of trauma, you know, and I find it pretty common that people need trauma to really take and make it important. The one skill that really allows us to keep everything we love in our lives, you know? So I'm not surprised to hear that there was a specific moment where you were like, nope, I'm turning into Batman. Screw you guys, you know?
Well, there was 2 Batman moments. The one where like me being able to draw super fast and burn it down and be super fast with a pistol, that came from a situation that happened with my son. I was taking my son to lunch. I was never like with his mother. You know, we dated for some time, it didn't work out. And then, you know, he came along, which was fucking awesome. But he was, I want to say he was 13 months old or something like that. And I brought, you know, I was bringing him to lunch and I had, you know, some guys pull up next to me in some piece of shit car and yelling it, I'm gonna fucking kill you and all this shit. And like, I had no idea what was going on. And, you know, when I was younger, you know, I might've done stuff differently, but I got my 13-month-old son in the back seat.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I'm BJ Baldwin. I could drive pretty good.
Yeah.
Just drive away. Well, I was in a F-150 with a supercharger and big tires and stuff like that. And it moved good. It would have been easy to go away. Problem was I didn't have any gas. I had like 10 miles left. And
Dang
that
it. Come on.
forced induction system on a supercharger, it just like,
Guzzling.
it's gone. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shit, I can't get away from these guys. Like, all right, open the glove box. It was in the other car. So I was like, shit.
I'm so not going to Valhalla after this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm like, fuck, you know, and I'm thinking of him. I'm like, okay, you know, I can't pull over. I can't fucking, I don't know what's gonna happen. These guys are really, really pissed off. There's a guy and a girl, and I think a couple of guys in the back seat. And so I'm like, all right, I'm almost at my lunch spot. They know where I'm at, and I can open the butterflies and give this thing mustard for like a minute before it dies on me because there's no gas left. So I do that, and that's not enough time for me to dart away from them. So I do that, and I fucking run Jaden into the restaurant, give him a hostess, and then I go back outside to deal with the problem. And the guys, they saw me running Jaden into the fucking restaurant, and they pull up. They're like, "Fuck, dude, I'm sorry. You know, I've had like a gnarly day. I didn't know that it was like that with you. I just need your insurance. Your truck kicked a rock up and broke my windshield, and I've had a series of things happen this morning that just drove me crazy, and my buddies with me, and you know, whatever." So I was like, motherfucker, dude, you know, it scared me, not for me, but for him, you know. And you know, I can fight a little bit, but it's a lot of work to deal with two guys, especially two guys that are like the type of guys that are like, pull over and we're gonna fuck you up. They're not butterflies.
Right.
Those are worthy competitors. And if there's two of them, then that's a lot of work for me to do. I could get knocked out, and Jaden could fucking they'll drive away, and Jaden could die in a car of heat exhaustion. Who the fuck knows what happened?
Right.
So luckily I was like, all right, you know, I let him have it a little bit. I was like, motherfucker, I had my son with me. He's like, I know, I'm sorry. And you know, it's him and this girl and then another guy in the backseat. Windows are tinted, so I didn't know how many people. I knew how many people were in 3 of the seats, but not as a SUV. You know, so exchange information, and then I was like, all right, this fucking thing is bolted to me forever. And then I could always shoot like really well. I knew a little bit, you know. I knew as much as the average person that thinks they know a lot about defense knows at the time, but I didn't know how far the fucking rabbit hole went. Then the first thing I watched was Travis Haley and Chris Costa.
Yeah.
And then it was fucking, you know, down the rabbit hole from there, and that was 13 years ago. You know, so that event, is why I was able to solve that complex problem that I had to solve 2 years ago with Tori.
Yeah. Wow. That's gnarly, man. Good. I mean, I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but I mean, it's awesome that you have these real world scenarios and things like that you've had to deal with. What would you say to the civilian that right now, like, isn't carrying a firearm because they just don't think anything can happen?
That's a tough thing to say, like tough thing to motivate. I don't think you could really say anything to those people. I think they have to, you know, if they're like distance from it or whatever, it's one to have somebody that doesn't even fucking own a gun that tell them that like they need a gun. Honestly, they should watch all your stuff because you break stuff down. You know, I used to watch, you know, ASP and he does a great job at you as it relates to your breakdown of everything.
Thank you.
Oh, dude, you fucking kill it because you have been in the shitstorm and you have experience with all kinds of shit. Like, you know, it hits different coming from you because you've been in like 250 fucking street fights and, you know, had people, you know, behind the iron sight, you know, before in combat and all that shit. So you have a better way of conveying that message than anybody. And, you know, I love that about you. I'm fucking glued to the screen every time you post some shit. So it's fucking awesome. But yeah, they need to understand. I mean, as it relates to talking to somebody that doesn't carry or doesn't own a gun.
Yeah.
I could say the reason why I do carry a gun is because it's not because I fucking can't wait to burn somebody down. It's not because I want to show somebody, none of that. It's because I have a problem. My heart is oversized. There's people in this world I can't live without. So if I was able to do something to lengthen the amount of time that I get with them, it's all related around time. You know, father time is undefeated. Yep. So if I can lengthen that time by being the person that makes the environment safer, and it doesn't cost me nothing, you know. I'm that person.
It's totally worth it, man. I completely agree, and that's kind of my aim with those tactical protection reviews, man. It's to the person that's like, oh, well, you know, I don't need this. Nothing's going to happen. Like my sister's on, I'm like, hey, you know, don't sit in the car and send a text message, get the car rolling, you know, send a text message once you're at a safe location, you know. They're like, hey, whatever, Byron, you're the security dude. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then I start posting videos of real world scenarios because it hits a little different when you see, oh, that just happened to somebody. Hey, if someone's weird getting on an elevator with you, just get off the elevator. You know, don't get on the elevator if you have a weird feeling. You know, exactly. Like just these are the things. And I try to give people those little micro doses of trauma, like, whoa, that was crazy. Like, yeah, that could literally happen to you today. We don't have a crystal ball here, you know. You know, and it because the more arms people we have, the safer the world's going to be. I think the more good people, man. Protectors of the white blood cells in the body of humanity, man. You know, dangerous society is a polite society. You know, so I 100%. And when you left that day with your son in the car, you didn't think that you'd be possibly in a life or death situation. You know, this thing that we're going to talk about here in a second with Tori, like, you didn't lace up your shoes that morning and be like, all right, you know, I'm going to carry my favorite piece with me, you know? Yeah. And it's totally normal civilian behavior to be like, oh, you know, I don't want to carry my gun today because it's uncomfortable or whatever, you know. It's like normal people behavior. If you didn't have like the Marine Corps like hammering it into you, being like, this is your soul, your gun, you know, your gun is your soul, you know. If you didn't have that, then you're probably just like, you know, it's in the car or whatever. But it's our responsibility, especially if we're capable, for all the people around that aren't capable, to be the people we can be, man, to be the best versions of ourselves. So that's awesome. Let's dig into this. Let's dig into this this encounter you had, and this real life force encounter you had, man. Would you mind just giving us like the blow by blow how this thing went down?
Not at all. I'm actually like, I feel super lucky because I've had like, you know, a lot of people reach out to me like, how do you deal with it and whatnot. And I have not, it has not bothered me at all. And I've, you know, I don't know, you know, I'm really religious, but I don't go to church. And, you know, I just can't see coincidences like some people can see. Like, I've done all the math, and this was on purpose somehow. I feel like this situation to me. So
I'm right there with you. I believe things, man, 100%.
So basically, for those that don't know that are watching this, I went to go to get food at In-N-Out late at night, finish my food. It was right at the beginning of COVID, and you know, it was high stress for everybody. Nobody really knew what was going to happen. I actually moved my son's mother and her husband in the house with me because, you know, I got world champion Tori and me with, you know, all my education as it relates to defensive tactics and all that. I moved them in with me to try and secure, you know, everybody that I could, you know, everybody. So there was a little bit of tension there. And then I was really stressed out in the house. I was like, I have not eaten anything all night. And I told Tori, I was like, I'm so hungry and stressed because all the other stuff floating around. And I'm, what do we have to eat? She's like, In-N-Out is open. So I was like, boom. They were only open for
America.
So they're only open for like 18 more minutes. So I get in my car, and I burn it down in and out, go eat. And then we got out of the car. I was actually smoking cigarettes at the time. And we'd park. There's only
you don't
like
smoke anymore?
No. I mean, very rarely.
Solid. It can be done, y'all. It can be done.
I do vape here and there, but so I was like, I just wanted to be out of the house for a little bit. And after 8, it was going to be like a 20-30 minute thing outside the car, hanging out, smoke a couple cigarettes and go home.
Yeah.
Well, when the last car left the parking lot, 2 guys approached us very rapidly, and it was a very complex problem. And Tori got shot at twice. I got shot at 6 times. We had an exchange gunfire because they didn't know I was carrying, and I burned a guy down from. The engagement started at 14 yards. It was very dynamic. It was full target value from 14 to 20 yards, 21 yards. And then I ended the fight at 26 yards. I delivered a shot to central nervous system, medulla oblongata, specifically the thing that unplugs the toaster. I can't really take it. I was just, I was trying to climb my cadence up because of the situation. I was taking my time, from full target value. And then when he moved, I picked up the pace a little bit, and that ended the fight. But yeah, that's what happened. I'm very, very lucky. And I can get into all the dynamics of that, but just a brief summary of it. Very, very lucky that I've had all the training, but also accompanied with the career in motorsports.
That was one of my questions, man. Because you're like a mother freaking pilot, bro. So you're making decisions at an accelerated rate. You guys haven't really heard it yet. He just started doing it, but he's ridiculously smart and ridiculously technical. So, he's like a dude, but he's also like a professor at the same time. So I was like gonna ask you, man, like your brain's cognitive ability from what you do for a living. For you, I feel like this was probably like a slow Tuesday, maybe.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I mean, we got a little bit of time, right? We can go through.
Yeah, we can dig in, man. You're my last thing today, man. We can go. So when I talk about like motorsports being involved, I'm sure people are watching this like, what the fuck? How does that relate to any of this shit? Well, I've been on fire 4 times, and I've had almost thought that I was going to be in really big trouble and crash like 5,000 times. I've really, in 20 years, I've only had like 6 bad crashes, or 5 bad crashes. 5, yeah.
So
No big deal. It's like when I'm like, I was in 5 IEDs. I have blown up 5 times. People are like, what did you just say? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's normal for us. Like, we're like, it was like, it happened, and then they like make you realize how ridiculous what you're saying is. That's one of those right there.
Yeah. So
but your brain's pretty inoculated then to these extreme levels of what normal people would call extreme levels of stress.
Yeah. So for example, like I'm going 100, 110 miles an hour down. I do off-road racing, so it's off-road, and I'm going down a road, and I have a left-hand corner, just as an example.
Yeah.
I'm like, and hit the brakes. And I'm like, shit, I'm not going to make this corner. Like most people would freeze and get ready to crash. Right. So I have the ability to be like, fear. Let's compartmentalize this. We'll put this over here.
Yep.
Let's add a solution to the problem. And then we can get scared after we solve the problem. So Just, you know.
Have you ever read the book, The Wisdom of Psychopaths?
No, but that sounds like a must read.
It's a very interesting, it's one of the first times I ever understood parts of my psychology. There's this whole thing that talks about when people who are somewhere on the spectrum, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person, it just means your brain works differently. When these high stress situations show up and they're all plugged in and they got, stuff on their brains and everything, they actually, when they put them in stressful situations, their vitals and everything actually goes down, and they just become more focused, and emotions are compartmentalized. And I got into an argument with my psychology teacher when I was going for my master's, and she's like, well, what do you do when you feel negative emotions? I'm like, I shut them down, and then I solve the equation. And once I make progress, I check back in with my emotions, which are in a positive state because progress equals happiness. And then I continue, and what you're explaining is it's what I've experienced. And I've always felt like, people are like, aren't you, that's kind of weird. Like, you should be feeling all these things. And I'm like, no, I feel fine. It's kind of, I feel like it's healthy, but anyways, audiobook, if you guys are interested, Wisdom of Psychopaths, very interesting read.
Now I'll have to mess with that after this, but yeah. Like, just like what you're saying, like, there's been times, where you get scared, but it's not a threat. And first thing you feel is, like your heart.
Yeah.
When I'm in danger, I don't ever get that. Like,
yeah, you just kind of focus and start problem solving.
Yeah. I have the ability to start problem solving. And, so like, every time I tell a story, it's about 8.5 minutes, like a second of this 1 second of the story is 8.5 minutes of data. Like for me to tell the story.
No, man. I mean, let's do it.
So my car is like, all the parking spaces are like this. I'm at what I think is partially tactically advantageous part of the parking lot. I'm under a structure. It's lit. There's a street light right here. My car is parked right here. And the rest of the parking lot is dark, right? I had not planned on being there for very long after the last car drove out of the parking lot, lights went out and in and out, everybody's going on. So, and I wasn't in a bad neighborhood. Like 2 miles from here, there's $5 million houses everywhere. And there's like really expensive houses like everywhere. It wasn't like I was, in a bad part of town where it's high crime. So, I felt safe. Apparently I wasn't.
It's starting to matter less and less these days, man.
Yeah.
It's starting to matter less and less these days.
It sure didn't matter. Listen, so I'm standing there like with my hand on I'm not like, I'm just standing there like with my, well, actually I was scrolling, messaging, emailing on Instagram, fast car, jumping truck, guns.
Yep.
The shit that we all, and Tori's last known location was 2 yards to my right. So I thought I was aware where she was, but while I was scrolling, she had wandered off. Well, I hear, I slide my phone in my pocket, and I hear PG, like girls like whispering like super heavy, so I can hear. And I go to the last known location. I'm like, and I obviously hear distress in her voice. And I scan the parking lot, right? Like this. And she's still whispering. I see two guys. The whole parking lot is dark. I see two guys, 50, 60 yards away. I don't know if they're coming or going. I don't know if they're talking. That's not my objective. My objective is figure out what is bothering Tori. And so I see that, and then I'm looking, I'm like, where is that coming from? And I had my car parked with the bumper this way, and my windows are like super dark. And obviously it's 1:51 a.m. I'm like, fuck, is she in the car? And the door's open. Driver's side door on the other side. And I'm like, fuck, she's still whispering like loud. And she's in the, I'm like, fuck, is she in the car? She stands up. And for those that don't know Tori, she's
small.
She's like 105 pounds. She's fucking gorgeous, but she's super athletic. Like she could bust out 10 pull-ups like that, but she doesn't look like the average, super attractive woman. When she stands up and her posture is like this. So her delts are activated, lats, and everything. She stands up, walks around the driver's side door, goes to the bumper. And the only communication I got for her to tell me what was happening or what was going on was this.
Mm. So you got to key off that body language. Okay, it's time to go. Like,
I was like,
something.
I was like, what the fuck? She wants me to look over there. She's scared of whatever's over there. So I go like this. And those two guys are way over there are speed walking this way. And I'm like, fuck, does she know? What? Okay. This is a gunfight and they don't know it's a gunfight.
Yeah.
You know, so they had, the guy had the gun out like this and speed walking, this way. So as soon as I detected that, I was like, okay, everything's frozen. People say time slows down, but I don't know if that's what happens. I just think I was able to process more bits of information at more rapid pace. So I'm like, okay, wait for a counter ambush opportunity, create a counter ambush opportunity, or just burn these motherfuckers down. And if you get hit, just drive you to the hospital and you get, you'll either get stitched up, you'll make it or you won't.
Yeah.
So I was like, right as I was sent, this is mid-step, and I was like, environmental asset. There's like a concrete garbage can that was this tall, made out of concrete. Well, that's what my brain told me.
Yeah. Like
it was
Nazi.
It was actually way smaller and it was steel mesh.
Yeah. Dang it.
So, but it was still an asset. It covered my femorals a little bit. So, so right at that moment, I got, as he's speed walking, not breaking stride, he goes like this. He goes, "What's good, homie?" Like that. And I was like, fuck, there's my counter ambush opportunity. In order for him to reorient towards her, he's activating bis, tris, delts, lats, rotational muscles in his hip, rebalancing his glutes and legs and everything. So I'm processing all that stuff. If that takes time for him to reorient towards her, that's my opportunity. And he's going to, so he's going to have to reorient towards me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I go to my environmental asset, which is 2 yards away. I draw, and in the middle of my draw, I crank around off to get the party started. He does the same thing. Oh. So we fire simultaneously. He fires at her. Wow. And he fired at her. She's fucking unarmed, hot girl. I don't know why he was doing that. But the toxicology report would explain why. I don't know, because he probably didn't know. Who knows what he was, where his mind was at that time. Yeah. So I cranked the first round off. It misses, and the guy that's with him was actually his brother. And I've never seen anybody run that fast in my life. I haven't seen the Roadrunner in cartoons run that fast, or Usain Bolt. I was like, wow. Going, he's like, gun, boom. And so he fires at her twice, fires at me 6 times during this engagement. My estimations last between 4.2 and 4.6 seconds. I'm taking my time. Yeah. Again, I go in from, okay, let's access a solution. So I don't have accelerated heart rate, blood pressure, or anything, like nothing, none of that. It's felt like a drill. Yeah. And so round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's it. I probably went a little bit faster than that, but I was like, damn, whatever this dude's drugs he's got on, he's great, because he's not responding to anything that I'm hurling at. I had the fucking dog on him, and I was like,
him, and just no response. Like, you're like, and that's one of the differences, man. We're shooting at paper targets, we're shooting at steel. We're getting this instant feedback. We're like, okay, shoot 2 rounds. Nah, man, you gotta rip until the behavior changes. It's still your set.
Still your set, exactly. So he's full target value, 14 to 20 yards, right? And then he changes target value partially while he's shooting at me, and I get a desired response. Nice. Fuck you! And then he turns fully towards me, and I pick up the pace because
You're winning now.
He's no longer moving like this. He's moving like this. So it's like not a moving target, like really anymore.
Conflade fire now.
He's like moving diagonally like this and firing back at me. And so I fucking pick up the pace and put it down, and he disappears. And I'm, cause I got like bushes like right here, but I'm hearing glass breaking. I'm hearing steel twisting, it's very graphic, acoustic impulse and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, gunshots, as I'm sure you know, are not that fucking loud. It sounds like popcorn when you're being fired at.
Yeah, you're not even paying attention.
Super quiet.
You don't hear anything. Yeah.
No, it's
your
super
brain, your ears just, you can hear everything. You can hear fine. The gunshots just aren't loud.
Yeah. I actually heard better, but the gunshots sound like popcorn.
Yep.
I heard like it's as if the bullets were going into the metal bracing in the windows.
Wow.
And going through the windows like like a hydraulic press. So it's like really crisp. And so I'm blading him. He disappears. I'm like, fuck, where'd he go? I know that guy's like 80 yards across the fucking parking lot, right? And I'm fuck, where'd he go? I peek over around the bush, and he was right there laying on the ground from 26 yards.
Okay.
So I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, all right. So I walk this way. I'm like, Tori, talk to me. Where are you at? She goes, I'm at your 3. I'm at your 5. I'm at your 7. I'm at your 9.
Wow. Tori's tactical. Look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
She's
like
talking.
she hasn't had like very much stress inoculation.
Right. I'm pretty impressed. I mean, that she was able to speak it that way, at least in that moment.
It gets better. Hold on one second. It gets fucking way better. So she's like, I'm at your 3, I'm at your 5, your 7, your 9. And we're going like this. He hit the car in the process of this. He hit my tire because there was a big nitrogen bloom at the tire on round 2 from him. And she goes into, I think she went into parasympathetic mode because she went into like, go get, I'm like, her stuff out of the car. Like, I'm like, we gotta run. Because I heard my brain told me
there's another
the other guy said, we're gonna fucking come back and fucking smash you, whatever. That's what my brain told me, right? Just like it tricked me into thinking that I was hiding behind a fucking concrete trash can. So I'm like, we gotta run. She goes into parasympathetic, starts getting her shit out of the car to go. Like if the building is on fire, don't forget to grab your purse, right? So, which is for just about anybody.
Right.
And I look at the car, I'm like, fuck. I never take my dot off of him, and I do an admin reload.
Check your stuff.
So I'm like this, and I go like this. I do admin reload. I put my partial in my pocket.
Nice. You went IDPA on him, huh?
I put my, instead of putting it back in my mag holder, I put it in my pocket so I knew it was on the truck, which I've never trained that.
Yeah. Your brain was just running faster. It was like,
the best decision. And then I'm looking at the car, I'm looking at her trying to grab her bags. I'm like, okay. I go, all right, no, we're not running. Get in the car, we're driving away. So I never took my dot off of him.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I was scanning to make sure. I didn't know what it was. I don't know if it was team effort or what.
Yeah.
So I never took my dot off him. I got in the car, and luckily, it's more proof God has a sense of humor. My ignition for my car is a Porsche is on the left-hand side. So I didn't have to fuck with, like all that. So I just go like this. I fire the car.
Tactical guys drive Porsches. No big. All the tactical guys are like, I got to get a Porsche just in case. Right?
Yeah.
I can keep my gun hand ready. I'm saying, stay ready. Ain't got to get ready anyway. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, that's right. That's so I got my dot on him.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what his condition is.
I
didn't know
when they hit the ground. Sometimes they can pop up and start doing some stuff from down there.
Well, Clint Smith from Thunder Ranch. He's a guy that, you know, I've learned a lot from via video, although I had not been to one of those classes yet. I went and I've been friends with him for a while. I remember him saying a lot of people have been killed by people that they already killed, but haven't died yet. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, so like gnarly as it relates to keep my gun on. Fire the car, keep my gun on him. And I remember that the layout of the parking lot. So I didn't look when I drove forward. I drove forward for 20 or 30 yards, veered to the left a little bit, got on the steering wheel, made a right, went into like evasive driving, even with a flat tire, reholstered. So I'm going like 5 car lengths out of the parking lot and starting to get going. I'm like, all right, check for wet spots, painted pulse, anything, you know, that hurts or any blood, check for all that.
Yep.
You check you, I'll check me, and we check each other. So we go like this, you know, whatnot. And I'm driving, you know, and I'm like, are you good? She's like, yeah, I'm good. You good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I'm like, fuck, good job. We bumped knuckles. That's how calm like we were. Like I don't think we really
That's awesome.
had like, fuck, that just happened yet.
No, you hadn't processed it yet. You're still in survival. No. Everyone's still like, cool.
Like it was a fucking drill or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going 94 miles an hour on a flat tire, you know, running through lights as safely as I can, you know, without hurting anybody else. I don't have any adrenaline still. Wow. I'm not still. And so I'm like, okay, what was this about? And let's secure everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get to that. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you what Tori did. During that gunfight, she's around the car. She communicates with me visually. She goes around the car in the process of me moving to my environmental asset, which was a trash can that blocked my thermals, and getting off the X, which I learned from James Yeager was in my head too.
Yeah.
Getoffx.com was his website, right? So that was in my head. So in my transition, her transition was around the bumper, and then there's cover, like there's a pillar here and there's a pillar here, right?
Okay.
He's here. When shit pops off, she runs further to the piece of cover that's further away, because she understood at that time that I was going to start engaging with him. And in the process of him transitioning from her to me, he could fight. She could get flagged, and he could not accidentally, but he can hit her easily if he's transitioning me and just pulling the trigger. So she understood that. She went to the further piece of cover.
Nice.
So I can't believe that mindset to be able to do that.
Yeah. A lot of people just curl up, you know, they don't know what to do. They freeze, curl up.
Oh, she did
once. Yeah.
She may not have been in parasympathetic like state when she went to go get her bags. Mm-hmm. She might have just been like, dude, this dude killed himself. I'm getting my shit. I'm not leaving my shit here. They might come back and fucking take all my shit. We'll go home.
That's
she
awesome.
might have, so I don't know that she was like psyched out, or if she was just like, this fucking guy killed himself. He had no idea that who he was running into. I'm getting all my shit here.
Yeah.
So so then fast forward to 94 miles an hour down the street with a flat tire.
Yeah.
Okay. Was this an assignment, or was this random? Let's secure my home, my son, his mother, her husband, secure my dad's place, which is 100 yards away from my home at the time. And I called my dad. I said, hey, you know, are you up? And he says, yes, this is okay. I'm going to be outside in 10 minutes. I need to talk to you. Everybody's okay, but we need to have a conversation. So go home. Ben is up, which is my son's mom's husband at the time. And he says, hey, what's going on? I says, so I need you to get your rifle, get your handgun, and I need you to go up to Jaden's room and stay there. Don't answer the door. Don't talk to anybody until I come back. I gotta go, And he's like, "What? Why?" I was like, "I think I just killed a guy in a parking lot." And he starts laughing. And Tori comes in. She's like, "He's not fucking joking. Get your shit. Get up. Get your fucking ass upstairs now." So he's like, "Fuck, okay." I go in. I restack my mags. I take 2 extra pistol mags. Tori goes and gets my rifle, which is a 10-inch LWRC with a Sacred 5.56 suppressor on it. Gets my chest rig and gets her rifle and her chest rig. And we parked my car in the garage as soon as we got home because we were trading vehicles. We didn't want them to identify that vehicle if they were still out, right? And we get in her car. She had Range Rover. It's in the garage hidden. I open the door, start loading this shit in there, which is fast as fuck.
Yeah.
Dan Bazarian FaceTimes me. And he's like,
"Hey, man."
yeah, it's like, hey, bro, I got some girls coming out, like some friends coming out, some nice girls, and we got some drones, and I finally got the SAW 240 working because that every time we go out, that thing fucking takes a shit.
Yes, they're finicky.
They're finicky, right?
Yeah, man.
So now I'm like, Dan, why are you calling me? He's like, what do you mean, dude? I just fucking see if you want to go to the range tomorrow. I know you're up. It's fucking only 2:00 in the morning. And I'm like, okay, something happened. I can't tell you what it was, but I just got done having a hamburger and I had to rush home and reload my magazine. And now I have to call the police. And you could take a wild guess.
What just went down.
What just went down. I'm going to go make sure my dad's all right. And he's like, fuck, okay, I'll be right there. He was the first one there. Everybody thinks he's an asshole. He's fucking first class, solid, bad motherfucker.
Wow.
So he calls a lawyer, his lawyer. The lawyer meets me, because obviously now I'm in a fucking homicide investigation. And the I've got on my gear, I drive down the street to my dad's and tell him, he says, come around back, and I'm not back. So
yeah,
I get my shit. I go around to the gate. I said, this is fucking full fear. Like not the fear, but the adrenaline.
Right.
Is fucking full, and it can't take anymore. It just dumps all of the adrenaline. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Dad, the fucking gate's locked. The gate's like 3 feet tall. And I'm like, I can't
mess with the gate, and you're like, ah.
And he comes around. It's one of those handles that you lift up instead of go down.
Yeah.
And I've been through that.
And you're like trying to break the gate. And he's just like, dink. And you're like, all right, okay. I'm off. I need to sit down.
Thousands of times. And I couldn't put that together. So, and then I was like, fuck, heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, all that's picked up. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, it's finally here. This is 35 minutes later. I was like, it's finally here.
That's awesome.
I'm in a homicide investigation, and everybody's gonna fucking know what happened.
Mm-hmm. And your brain starts running all the scenarios. And watching everyone learn, find out, and watching them look at you. And like,
yeah, like fuck, like
They're gonna think I'm a murderer now. Like I can't even. Yeah, all the
people still do. There's people that still think I murdered my drug dealer. Like I don't fucking do drugs, anything like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make sense to me. Like I fucking love cookies and cream ice cream from Baskin Robbins.
Yeah.
Not one time have I killed anybody from Baskin Robbins. Not once. Because I want to make sure I can get that fucking cookies and cream. I don't want my fucking ice cream dealer to go away. So it doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
All right. That's what's up. Nah, man. But it's interesting just to listen to, man. Impressed that you had the forethought to be like, hey man, let's make sure this isn't organized, that my family's intact. I love that whole piece about the soft skills, man. People discount the soft skills.
you guys recognizing something, you reading their body language, her ability to see from across the parking lot, like this is that time. Like you're with dudes, and like when there's about to be a fight, like you were saying, like me and my guys are in the same area, and it's like a signal goes out. Like we all look at each other and we know instantly we're about to get in a fight with these dudes.
You're like, that one's first.
Yep. And no one said anything. Everyone's still like, and I'm still smiling. I'm always smiling. And it's about to go down, and you see that body language. And so I'm sure when you saw Tori's body language, you were like, okay, boom, what's going on where? And that's the awareness I want people to start to get, because imagine if you would have just had your head down in your phone, or if she would have just had her head down in her phone. You guys had like no tactical positioning when you had your backs to the open space.
Yeah.
And this is really like what I talk about, context. You're in a parking lot late at night with with people passing by you don't know, tactical positioning. Where are you in that environment, and then rolling risk assessment, like who's around you doing what, who's the baseline, what's your anomalies, the stuff. Now you do all this without even thinking about it, it's like driving, just like instinctual, but it's interesting to hear how those things gave you an edge before we even kicked off the party, And then, I mean, even rewinding, like people that can recognize these things have options, like boom. I mean, maybe you could have both just bolted and just ran different directions. Maybe, you know what I mean? For someone who isn't armed, being able to recognize this problem as soon as possible is a huge tactical advantage.
Yes. I like where you're going with that. And you did like that idea. I should have touched on that earlier when you were saying, what would you say to somebody that's not armed or whatnot? So here's a good example. I'm glad you brought that to my attention. You've always heard, like, when somebody's seen you get dressed and you put your gun on, and people that don't carry guns are like, do you really think you'll need that? We're going to the movie theater or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the tough guy thing to say is like, if I thought I'd need my handgun, I'd bring my rifle, right? Like for me, if I thought I might need my handgun, I'd stay home.
Right.
So it's situational awareness. If I could have known that was going to happen, I would have gone to sleep, so the situational awareness, I'm glad you touched on that. That for anybody, especially somebody that doesn't have the tools or the skills, being able to read the area and being able to read people is paramount, because believe me, like as somebody that's been in a gunfight and solved a really complex problem, even though that happened, and I, whatever, got fucking street cred. My military buddies gave me street cred for, being able to handle that and save life. And, I wish that would have never fucking happened. There's fucking 3 kids right now that are going to grow up without a fucking dad. There's a fucking girl, that's, really nice girl that's out, that doesn't have her man, doesn't have her partner with her forever. And the kids are going to grow up without him forever. So that stuff fucking sucks. I was able to preserve life, hers and mine. My kids still have, but at the end of the day, if you can avoid that, fucking situational awareness is paramount.
100%, man. And it's not complicated. It's like, context. Where am I going? I'm gonna be in a parking lot at nighttime. Tactical positioning. Can I put myself in a place where I can see anyone walking towards me? And then rolling risk assessment. Whose behavior is off? These dudes are looking weird. Oh, they're coming towards me. Options. And now I got to think through options. And on the violence thing, that's the other thing too. I want to speak to that. We don't want to do violence. So like I got this Protector Nation shirt, right? I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is our collaboration shirt with Howitzer. And it's of the Gladiator, from Gladiator that had the lion armor on, and then he had the steel face mask, right? But and actually on our coin too, I have it, but there's a tear in his eye, and it's because we do violence because we must, because we need to preserve order. It's not because we want to, it's but this is what we do, and it doesn't mean you're gonna have you have to. It doesn't mean you have to have PTSD about it, because that always gets me when people are like, oh, you're messed up because this happened to you. It's like, no, or, when we're trying to cycle out of the Marine Corps and they're like, oh, you went on all these patrols and got blown up and got shot. There has to be something wrong with you. I'm like, no, there doesn't have to be anything wrong with me. People have been doing this to each other since the beginning of time. But so you don't think you have to have PTSD if something happened. But what I am saying is we don't want to do violence. And I'm just about as good at saving a life medically as I am with violence as well. These are tools that the protector has to have and has to be able to use. So I agree with you 100%. But if we had a crystal ball, the world would look very, very different. So we got to stay ready. So we ain't got to get ready,
100%, brother.
Yeah, man. And so this whole thing's going down. I mean, you broke it down so well. I haven't even looked at any of my questions that I had about this whole entire thing.
Oh, dude, fire away.
Yeah, man. When you start putting rounds into an actual target and you're not hearing pings and nothing's actually happening. We had that same problem in Iraq with the ARs and how thin they were and how they'd be hopped up in adrenaline. And you're like, why isn't this working?
Yeah, green tip, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's punching through everything. We're ice picking dudes, basically.
Yes.
Until they go down, What would you say about training, man? Was there any training that stuck out that you've been through that you think really could really helped you? Or is it just the synergy of solving equations with a firearm over the years so many times? Or was there like, this really reminded me of this period of, because you referenced multiple senseis or professors or instructors during that whole encounter?
Yeah. So as it relates to anybody that's listening to this that has a concealed carry permit and carries on it, right? Yeah. So there's time is like a very powerful has a bunch of definitions in my book, right? So hopefully they never fucking have to go through this, right? But if they do, hopefully the blade is really fucking sharp, that they, you know what I'm saying? Like
their edge.
Yeah. So, and obviously you don't get to pick, when this happens. And if you knew when it happens, like I said, you just fucking stay home. It's like, fuck this shit. I'll watch TV. Right. But, you fall back. Help me out here, Byron. You fall back to your lowest level of training. Right?
Yeah, your baseline. So that's what I always tell my guys. Hey, we're on the range. We're trying to improve your baseline of training. Now, the first drill is going to be our first drill. We're not warming up. I want to see how you do. Just straight up right now. We just drove to the range. Get online.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very, very strict as it relates to safety. Trigger fingers don't belong in trigger guards. I'm very safe as it relates to flagging. I don't ever flag me or myself or anybody else. That being said, my first bundle of rounds, whenever I go train, I go as fucking fast as I can. I make sure I'm putting holes in the area that I want to put holes in. Yeah. So as it relates to somebody that carries a gun throughout their life, I think they should take a year and try and get really fucking fast, or as fast as they can get, and really accurate, and definitely not in that order. But, and then if they want to cruise like the rest of their life and train here and there or whatever, have fun, that's fine. But what you're doing when you're really working really fucking hard for like 2 months, 3 months, any part of your life, now you're raising, like you were saying, you're raising the baseline. So the party that sucks is going to be here instead here.
Yeah. Like completely. Dude.
So like even now, I haven't trained purposely because I have not trained in like 2 months. I've not fired around downrange in like 2 months. And I've done that the last year while I'll go to the range and see how good I am. Mm-hmm. Even me not training very much, not really doing much dry practice, I'm still really fucking fast, and I still get headshots 50 yards, like no problem. Not as fast as I was when I was training all the time, not as good as I was, but my baseline is really, really substantially high. That just like a boxer, right? Like you don't ever see a boxer, ex-boxer throwing punches like this. Everything is programmed into their kinesthetic pathways forever because they've had so much, a high level at a certain point in time. Their baseline's still ridiculous.
Absolutely. And the other thing you mentioned that was, it's interesting. I think when I started doing like competitive shooting and things like that, I thought shooting fast had so much to do with all this and like being accurate and stuff like that. Shooting is like a sight and a information processing game. Like if you're doing anything other than like shooting at a paper target in front of you, and a lot of guys will probably hate me for saying this, but that's why I like competitive shooting, because it's literally like solve this equation any way you want as fast as you can. Go. At least for a USPSA it is. It's like, there's the equation, stay in the lines, but shoot these targets as fast as you can. And then you can start playing once you do exactly what you just said, and you have your accuracy dialed in and your speed dialed in, you can now start solving higher level equations. What is this? Seeing more aggressively, how I'm actually moving through these targets more effectively. These are the higher quality problems. And then the rest of the stuff should just be automatic, and you can solve these. But yeah, man, so it's the whole like information processing and being comfortable enough.
There's a lot of situations where for us men, our significant others, like, when are you going to be fucking home from the fucking range? Stop finger fucking your gun. What the fuck are, like some guys have it like that. Yeah. I'm very lucky because mine says your fucking transitions suck. You need to work on that.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. That is awesome. Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Iron sharpens iron, So that's awesome. Heck yeah, dude. That's the way it should be, man. I mean, that's a warrior's dream, So heck yeah, brother. That's awesome. The whole information processing thing. And that's where I think your job helps you be able to you're flying a fighter jet. They're like in a truck, trying to process, and you're like, okay, cool. But real quick, let's talk ballistics real quick before we hang this thing up, man. Ooh. I mean, this is your world. Real quick, if you could give us a download of kind of your favorite setup, like what are you running, barrel, rounds, preferences, I got to get some of this info from you, man. This guy's a mad scientist, you guys. Well,
people ready to have their minds blown a little bit.
Yeah, man, right?
Well, what is my favorite? Well, am I on a road trip? Am I in a hotel? Am I in a crowded area? Am I in the woods? Situation dictates, right? That's how big of a nerd I've gotten. I've got 6 different magazines in a safe in my truck for any given situations. Like, what's the likelihood that I might have to go through a car door, car window? Do I want anything to pass through drywall after it passes through a body if I'm in a hotel room? So I've gotten really fucking far. I guess
just the prescriptions then. Yeah, break it down, man.
So, this like represents the end of my journey. Nobody's ever seen this before. So this is replication, and this is the end of my journey. Obviously, that's very, very different. But that replicates a fight-ending scenario. And for me, the thing that I learned, 10 millimeters better than 9 millimeter.
I love it. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Now, the internet's going to break when we drop this, because this is definitely going to be a war. Like, everyone's going to be like Bloods versus Crips on 10 millimeter and 9 millimeter in a second.
But actually, as it relates to, like, people think about, ballistics as it relates to damage done to, a block or something like that, right? And I see, like the synthetic bodies.
Skeleton, or bodies.
Yeah, Ballistic Dummy Lab, awesome company, fantastic people, really cool people. I know those people. I've never messed with one of those dummies yet. I haven't had that opportunity. Like $2,000 or something like that. And for me to do that, I would have to have a lot of equipment. But I can tell you right now, nobody has tested those appropriately. No one. And, at the end of the day, no matter what the situation, I want the best fuel, right? Appropriate for the platform that I have. So I don't want what I had in my fight that's led me to this journey, this terminal ballistic journey. I had a 9mm round that the FBI uses, and they use it for a very specific reason. And that's a 2-hour conversation. One day I'll tell you about Miami-Dade in 1986. But it was like really weak round that looks great after windshield. Aside from that, I no longer run that stuff. I want to run the hottest fucking round that I can, that is going to damage the most tissue, and without regard to internal organs, because in a dynamic situation, we're not aiming for the heart, right? In a ambush situation, somebody's got a knife, a baseball bat, a copy of Hillary Clinton's book. You got the opportunity, right? You got time and opportunity. That's a different scenario. But in a dynamic scenario, you're just trying to make as big holes as you can, and hopefully you get to go home that night. So all the stuff that I run is, first off, you have to have a good barrel, fully supported chamber, so you don't get a malfunction that deletes the ability for you to use your tool. Yes. So all aftermarket barrels, I'll run Wilson Combat or KKM or, Wheaton Arms makes good stuff, and their barrels are super sexy, but they have a different twist rate for the ammunition. I don't run hot rod stuff that's in excess of 124 grain anymore because the dynamics of that. And then, for like a jacketed hollow point, this stuff's really good. Federal plus B plus 115 9 it's developed by Louisiana Highway Patrol and Federal, and that was developed, I think like in the 80s or something like that. This is still a badass round. At the end of the day, none of this shit matters as it relates to the ballistics journey and all the education that I've, provided myself in the testing and all that stuff. Yeah. None of it matters if you can't put holes where you want to put. Pat are paramount. Yeah. Balance of speed and accuracy skills, paramount. Yep. And nothing is more important than situational awareness. Yeah. So yeah, we can get into ballistics, but we'll be here till
maybe that'll be round 2 if we ever get to it. But I agree with you 100%, man. The situational awareness gives us the ability to get into the fight. They pick the time and place generally. Sometimes we can get the drop on them. I got a tactical protection review coming up right now. You guys may have seen it, where there's someone jumping from the stands to try to get a hold of a basketball player, but this female cop just was on top of her. So she darts out, but the cop just totally intercepts her and tackles her before she gets out there. But that situational awareness, it gives you the ability to enter the fight deliberately as soon as possible. And that is your survivability, or leave, but you have that choice, before they close that distance and you're in the middle of an ambush and you're actually on the X. So it's awesome that you're kind of ending with that. The situational awareness is huge. I think
I will give, if I may interject, I will give the listeners a gift in the form of a question. If anybody runs 147 grain 9mm or 45 caliber 230 grain, or 40 caliber 180 grain, I'll give them a gift in the form of a question. And have you ever considered, if you had to use your firearm and that was what you were using, any of the things that I mentioned, that if you fired upon somebody to save your life or someone else's, that they might move out of the way before your bullet got there? Situation dictates target value, speed of a human being. People can move out of the way of pistol rounds at a certain distance.
Are you sure, BJ? I'm serious.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah. Were you dodging? Did you go Bruce Leroy from did you dodge bullets? Was this
Took 42 thousandths of a second at the closest distance, which was 14 yards, from my 135 grain projectile to travel 14 yards. And at the rate of speed that he was moving, the angle that he was moving, he was able to travel 8.5 inches.
That's a lot. I mean, 8.5 inches makes a difference.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
So if you're aiming for a heart,
yeah,
aiming for a chest.
With target value.
Yes.
I mean, that's a miss. That's a difference between a miss. I mean,
I have not looked at all the data, but I theorize based off of aerodynamic resistance of the sweater that he's got 4 or 5 holes in the back of the sweater that didn't contact tissue.
Wow.
But what do I know? I'm just a truck driver.
I'm just a truck driver. My man, BJ Baldwin. Ladies and gentlemen, I love it, man. This was really good. Can I hit you with 1 or 2 closing questions as we roll out? Just standard.
100%.
Favorite quote, mantra, saying?
Ooh.
They always leave your mind, man. When we hit people.
I'm gonna rattle around like 3 hours from now. I'm gonna be like, "Fuck, man, I should have said that."
Right.
No, I would say tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Yeah, that's good, man. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. What's a habit that you would suggest for protectors to look into that makes them a better protector, a better person?
A habit. I would, if it's somebody that is armed, I would say that if they've dedicated, to have concealed carry, or if they're a law enforcement officer, I would say take care of your tools and take care of your skills. The tools that are that you're born with are just as valuable. So widen your kinesthetic pathways, program your central nervous system to be able to put holes in shit when you want to put holes in it as fast as you can.
Where you want.
Hold yourself accountable for that. I wish more law enforcement officers would do that more. My hat's off to all of the ones that do have skill set, do practice and recognize, what their responsibility is and keep their skills in checks. I love law enforcement. I love all law enforcement officers, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for the ones that really put the work in as it relates to that.
Yeah, because it's more than just job. As they always hear me say, it's more just job, y'all. What was the hardest thing about that situation?
The hardest thing about that situation was everybody saying negative stuff. Like
The fight after the fight.
Yeah, that fucking hurt, man. That really hurt. Still hurts. Like, oh, you've been dreaming of this happening. You wanted this to happen. Like, you and I both know what happens intracranial when you have a rapid pressure change in the brain. Usually the eyeballs pop out. So why would I want to risk seeing Tori like that with a cheap 115 grain full metal jacket inside her memories, just so I could have fucking street cred? Are you kidding me? I would have way rather made some fucking popcorn at home and went to sleep.
Went to sleep. Yeah.
All the trash talking by people making their assumptions, like
sheep, man.
Yeah, people are really hurtful.
It's too bad, man. No, it's too bad. But this. I mean, that's the onlookers, man. But you're here. You got a beautiful life, beautiful wife. And that's what we train for. This is what we do it for. How would you like to be remembered, sir? Final question.
By my disability. And that would be having an oversized heart.
That's good. You're good, dude, man. I mean, to people who have anything like that issue, they completely understand in this exact moment, but it takes so much strength, and I commend you, man, for
not changing that, not cutting that out, because all the pain that life or people cause as a result of rolling that way, to be able to continue rolling with your heart out, and being that type of a good dude, man.
This is how big my heart is. The person that was with him that night was his brother.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm friends with him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw your post the other day.
Yeah, and his brother was, on one and uncontrollable, and he dragged him out that night. It was like he had no idea. He thought he was going to throw a rock through a window at the gun store. That was a last minute decision. So, and he had my back as it relates to his interview with the law enforcement. He's like, that was straight up self-defense, but he got caught up in all this stuff. So once I finally got to talk to him, I spent 3 hours with him. He was going to be in jail for, he had 104-year possibility of being, sentenced to 104 years. Of course, he probably would have only done, 20, but,
right.
But he was, he was concerned, and there was a lot of moving parts as it relates to that relationship with him and his brother. And he loved his brother for sure.
Of course.
But, we ended up discussing a variety of things. He's very sympathetic with, the whole situation, which it never happened. And he's got a family at home. And, I don't want his kids to, I recognize who he is. I'm able, growing up in Vegas, I'm able to detect bullshit pretty good.
Yeah.
And so was the judge that was present, the district attorney that was present. And, they're like, this is, what's going on right here. And he's a good guy. Tori and I ended up getting him off with 5 years probation.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, that's amazing, man. Yeah. I mean, and that came down to a conversation, a look in the eyes, some man law, and some understandings, that you guys were able to come to. Isn't that? I mean, I'm trying to find the words for that, but that's special stuff, man. That's real stuff. Wow. What an awesome conversation, man. I mean, you just don't get this stuff, man. You don't get to, we talk about tactics, you know what I mean? But this is the good stuff. This is the life of a protector stuff. This is giving people some good overview, some understanding. The weight of the conversation is feelable, so thank you, man. I commend you. I respect you, for sharing these things with us, opening up these things, and then being able to go through them and go into them. Because I think a lot of people are going to learn quite a bit from this conversation. And, hopefully it'll help a lot of people have their stuff with them when they need it, because they don't know when they're going to need it,
Yeah, that's why we're here, to share information like this and share stories like this. I'm happy to, I was going to not share it, but I thought when it happened, I'm like, man, this could save a lot of people's lives if I share this in public and I educate people about this. And, I'm grateful for you having me on, brother. It was awesome. It's always a pleasure to chit chat and bullshit with you. And I think this is, like you were saying, I think this is going to help some people. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, man. 100%. And we got to catch up next time I'm in V-Town. I've been coming from time to time, so I'll definitely be hitting you up.
Oh yeah, brother.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much, BJ. We get on here again. We got to talk ballistics. You guys have no idea how much this man knows about ballistics. But anyway, is there anything you're up to these days that you want to tell people about, where to find you, anything like that? Any social media handles or anything?
Yeah, my social media is at BJ Baldwin on Instagram. I have YouTube that I'm starting to mess with a little bit more now. I have Media Guys that covers all my racing, some of my training and stuff like that. And I'm in the process of doing some other things I can't discuss right now. But I have, like I was saying earlier, people have been waiting for recoil for a long time. So that was my hint that I've been putting myself in harm's way in my truck. But that's coming out. I think that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, follow me on social media, my Facebook or Instagram. And maybe one day I'll I'll have a podcast in the arms room. We'll see.
Heck yeah, man. Tear it up. You'd be awesome. Too easy. All right, brother. Take care. We will talk soon. It's been an honor, man. Thanks again.
Honor's all mine.
Solid. Boom. This is my MCK. There are many like it, but this one is mine. If you've got a firearm sitting around, a pistol that you are not doing anything with, get an MCK. They make them for every single model. If you want a micro conversion kit that will turn your handgun into a force multiplier, get one, man. They are ultra affordable. CAA MCK micro conversion kits are changing the game, y'all. So if you don't have one, you need to get one. Get one. Your women, children, people that are less physically potent will be able to fire your firearm to farther distances with more accuracy. You will be able to fire your firearm to farther distances with more accuracy. I want to get one of these into the hands of 100,000 more protectors this year, because ultimately we are only as good as the nation is only as good as its protection. Your home is only as safe and as good as your ability to protect it. MCK, go get one. Drop your handgun in, take it to the next level. Out. Boom. Boom. Yo, what up? I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode. Hey, listen, in order to get more out of the brand, I want to encourage you to go join us on our social media platforms and join us at protectornation.com. We post different types of content on our different platforms at different times. You'll get blog posts, you'll get videos, you'll get real world combat engagements and things like that. So stay plugged in order to get the most out of the brand. In order to support us, also go to protectornation.com and buy something, or join forces with me on Patreon. You'll scroll down the homepage and you'll see the link. Anything you can give counts. Think about whatever you would lose in your cushions or like spend on McDonald's this month, $5 a month, whatever it is. That helps us make the world a better place by making good people dangerous. Anyways, this is Byron Rodgers, protector by nature and by trade, and I'll see you on the next piece of content, whether it's a video or podcast. Out.